No more talk. It's time to walk the walk. This is USC's first. It's their best chance. They got to prove that loss to Illinois was a one-off. It's not more of 2024 deja vu. That's coming up next. This episode of Locked On USC.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Culkin, and thanks for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day, whether you're watching the show on YouTube. Pick the platform, download this podcast. The show is free. The show always appreciates your support. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your very first purchase. So we all remember how 2024 played out, right? USC lost to Michigan up there in Ann Arbor. They held that late fourth quarter lead. Then they came home, lost to Penn State. And the season just kind of spiraled out of control from there. Well, let's fast forward. 2025, USC's 4-1 now. They lost by 2 points to Illinois, a team they probably should have beat. And look, they're coming back. They're coming home. They've had a bye week. They're going to take on that Michigan team that USC should have beat last year. And I'll say it, they should beat them this year. With that said, we got to ask ourselves, has USC grown as a team? Well, Saturday is the day to prove it. Okay? You got primetime TV kickoff, 4:30 p.m. in the afternoon, West Coast time, 7:30 on the East Coast. This is the game of the week. This is primetime game. They're coming off the bye week, so there's no reason why they shouldn't, be amped up, ready to go. They should still be a little bit salty from that loss against Illinois going into the bye week. You're playing in front of a sold-out Coliseum. If there was ever a big-time opportunity to make everyone around the country pay attention, this is it. This is that opportunity you've been waiting for, what you've been looking for. Yes, Illinois was an opportunity to kind of do it on a big stage, but it's USC Michigan. Here's a little bit more cachet. Look, again, if there was ever a time, to make everyone around the country say, hey, that's USC. That's what they're supposed to look like. They're back. This would be it. And they don't have to do it in a blowout victory type of fashion. It's not necessary. It would be cool if it happened, but it's not necessary. In fact, I would say this. I think it would probably do Lincoln Riley, as well as a team, it would probably do them good to win just an old-fashioned smash-mouth type of football game. Still, a win is a win. I prefer a comfortable win. However, we're playing Michigan. We know what they're bringing to the table. We know what their identity is. Well, Michigan's head coach, Sharon Moore, he talked to the media on Monday, game week, and he said it's going to come down to who controls the line of scrimmage. So he spoke to the media, and he was asked about USC's offense. And this is how he broke it down. Quote, explosive. That's what he said of USC's offense. Explosive. You got Mekhi Lemon is as explosive as any receiver you will see in the country. Jacoby Lane, the same, big, strong, physical. The two tight ends are explosive. Lincoln Riley really wants to run the football and then play action, RPO, do things off of that. The quarterback does a really good job of taking care of the football for most of the part. So we've got to do a good job of really controlling the line of scrimmage up front first. They've got a really good O-line, but I feel like we've got a really good D-line. So it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a 4-quarter battle in the Coliseum, which we're really excited about, end quote. So you said, I really wanted to emphasize the last couple lines there. So we've got to do a really good job of controlling the line of scrimmage first, up front. They're putting the game in the hands of their defensive line. They know that they have to disrupt USC's offense. There are two things that Michigan does equally well. They run the ball, and they are one of the better run stopping teams in the country as well. So this is what Coach Moore is talking about. Controlling the line of scrimmage. Because if USC's offensive line keeps Jaden Mayava clean, open up the holes for USC's running backs to get 4 yards a pop, Michigan's going to have a hard time winning this game. So the Wolverines, they have the number 7 run defense in the country. It's pretty good. And they're number 4 against, as far as average yards per attempt. That's why I brought up USC needs to get 4 yards per carry. Here's a fun fact for everybody. The Wolverines, they have not allowed a running back, not one, not yet, to run for more than 65 yards in any of their first 5 games. Here's another fun fact for everyone. So far, USC on the ground, they're averaging 227 yards per game. Now, that number drops down to 198 yards per game when they're playing in conference. So against Michigan State and Purdue and Illinois, USC has been averaging about 198 yards per game, 198 yards per game on the ground. And then when they play at the Coliseum, USC has been rushing for 277 yards per game. So it's one of USC's strengths. And you're going up against one of the country's best at stopping the run. USC runs the ball well. Michigan puts a lot of pride in stopping the run. On the road, Michigan, their run defense, they give up 90 yards per game. It's pretty good. That's really good. So here's where USC can, I guess, make Michigan's defensive coordinator, Wink Martindale, and his defense uncomfortable. This is how you do it. Sean Moore talked about the RPO, the play action. USC does a lot with that. They can use their running backs out of the backfield. They use their tight ends a lot this year. We know the chemistry that Jaden has with Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane. There's a lot there. This is why he's talking about USC's offense is explosive. So he knows that they can throw the ball. He knows that USC is capable of running the ball. It all comes down to who's going to control that line of scrimmage. So you got the RPO, you got the play action with the tight end. I'm going to anticipate Lincoln Riley's got some design quarterback runs built into the play calling sheet this week. I love his trick plays. I'm looking forward to the next one. We'll see if they run a similar one that they did last, 2 weeks ago, I guess, against Illinois. Perfectly executed, save for an eligible man downfield, but we're past that. So everything that we're talking about right now, all of this is predicated on Coach Zach Hansen's guys doing their jobs. If those guys up front do their jobs, I like USC's chances a lot in this game. We already know, because I've told you, if you're an everydayer, you know this by now. If you're not an everydayer, you should be. If you're watching on YouTube, click that red subscribe button, smash that thumbs up, click that bell notification. You don't want to miss an episode. Doing this for you 5 times a week, sometimes even more. During the season, you're definitely getting me more than 5 times a week. You're getting me 6, 7 times sometimes. So, as an everydayer, you understand that Killian O'Connor, USC's starting center, he's out for at least these next 2 games. That means General Jeonre Reed is going to be the anchor. Okay, he's going to be playing center first against Michigan, as well as the game a week later at Notre Dame. And unless Elijah Page has made a significant recovery, I'm going to say right now he's 50-50, maybe 60-40 ready to play. We'll see. I'm hearing conflicting reports. Some are saying, yeah, he's playing. Others are saying, we'll see. I'm going to play it by ear, and I'll keep you updated throughout the week, let you know. Assuming that Elijah cannot go, Elijah Page, your starting left tackle will be Justin Ta'uanu. Micah Banuelos will be your left guard. I mentioned the general at center, Alani Noah, right guard, Tobias Raymond, right tackle. In their matchup last year, I just want to remind everybody, that wasn't the offensive line. USC's offensive line last year got chewed up, especially at both tackle spots. Elijah Page had a really rough game of it. And Mason Murphy also had a really rough game of it. Coach Riley said a lot of that was on him with the communication with the signals, loud environment, and maybe he didn't have the team prepared right for it. Whatever. USC's offensive line did not have their best game against Michigan last year. So far this year, Mayaba has played, I think he's played really well. USC's quarterback. And he's more dynamic than Miller Moss, who was last year's quarterback against Michigan. When I say more dynamic, is Jaden has much more escapability. And if that comes into play, if necessary, Jaden is able to do that more than Miller Moss was last year. So not only is Jaden more mobile, I loved how last week, well, again, the game against Illinois, how he bounced back after throwing that first interception, first one of the year, hopefully the only one of the year. But he's not going against last year's Michigan's defensive line. He's going against this year's defensive line. It's good, just not as good as last year's. A little bit, I'll call it a step down. Still really good, though. USC has to be able to control Michigan's edge rushers. You got Derek Moore, I think, number 8 or number 0, whatever. You got Jashawn Barham. Both of those guys have to be contained because Barham, he leads Michigan with 3 sacks, and Derek Moore has 2.5 sacks. USC as a team has 17. They have to, again, keep Michigan's edge rushers out of USC's backfield. That will allow the running game to work well. That'll allow Jaden Mayaba to find his receivers at his leisure. Easier said than done, but you get the point. Last year, I mentioned that Michigan has not given up they only give up 90 yards per game on the ground. They haven't allowed a running back to run for more than 65 yards this year. Last year, USC's running back, Woody Marks, he had 100 yards against Michigan. He had that really long run, and then everything else kind of just balanced out after that. This year, you've got Waymon Jordan. You've got Eli Sanders. You've got Jaden Mayava. All 3 of those guys know how to use their legs. I get it. Mayava's the quarterback, but you get my point. They have to set the tone. And if they do, running the ball, the passing game is going to exploit the Wolverines' weakness, which is, their secondary. Right now, it's their secondary. So you got those guys. I mentioned Waymo and Eli Sanders. Why not King Miller? He's got a couple of long touchdown runs. If USC can run the ball, get 4 yards per try, I really like the way I'll really like the way the offensive line is winning the battle. I think they'll be winning the game. So as I mentioned at the top of the show, this is USC's first best chance to prove themselves. Because you get Michigan this week, do well here, win that game, you can double down, go do it again in South Bend, Indiana, when you take on Notre Dame in what might be the last game of the series. Hopefully it won't be. They got to get that figured out. All right, 2 more segments to go. We're going to stay in the trenches. We're keeping stay on that same tangent. The question is, will the real Trojans defensive line please step up? And then I'm going to talk about the polls in the 3rd segment. The polls, yeah, they're not looking too good. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Every day we make decisions, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Like me, I'm always right, almost always right. Playing PrizePicks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections, kind of like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley's rushing for a touchdown. Pick more or less, and you're in the game. It's that simple. You're going to love how quick it is to put your lineup into play. You can literally make your lineup in less than a minute. PrizePicks has also added a new feature. It's called, you need to really check this out. It's called the injury reboot. If one of your player leaves early and doesn't return, it's not going to count against you. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege, and you're going to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Look, I watched it on TV and I heard the TV announcers say it. They were pointing it out. They were backing up what I was watching with my own eyes. When Michigan beat the Wolverines, I wanted to see what their offensive line looked like, because one of the concerns right now is USC's defensive line. Well, I watched it. The TV announcers kind of backed up what I was watching. The Wolverines' offensive line, they're not playing up to their potential right now, especially on the inside at the guard positions. Here's the thing, and it always happens like this. You think USC might have an advantage, take advantage of it, be able to exploit it. Michigan might be getting healthy just in time as they make their trip out to LA. So apparently they've been down a couple of their interior offensive linemen, including a graduate, El Hadidi, I think his name is, El Hadi. I apologize for messing up the name. I know he's their starting left guard. So he might be back. If he is, hopefully that's going to help Michigan. Hopefully he's going to be a little bit rusty, and hopefully USC's defensive line gets after these guys. I don't care who's playing for Michigan. That Trojan defensive line that's being coached up by Sean Nua, Coach Eric Henderson, they've got to go do what they've been doing up until that game they had against Illinois. Again, go prove that effort 2 weeks ago was a one-off, and it's not what everyone should anticipate weekly. When I say a one-off, meaning it's one game out of 12. That's going to be the last time you see them play that poorly. And not just the defensive line, but the defense in general. But it started up front. And that's where it's going to start against Michigan, because if you can't control the line of scrimmage, you can't stop the run, it's going to be a really, really, really long day. You know, if I say something 3 times in a row, it's for emphasis. USC has to stop the run. Period. End of story. They don't do that, they're not going to win the game. And if they do, it'll be because of some other, stuff happened, lots of turnovers or whatever, maybe a lot of penalties, that type of stuff. Because if Michigan's controlling the line of scrimmage and they're controlling the clock and they're running the ball and they're keeping the ball away from USC's offense, that's not a winning combination for USC. Not for Lincoln Riley, not the way he likes to run his explosive offense. So, again, they have to go prove it. Get it down on the field, that defensive line. If USC is going to lose this game, make the Wolverines' freshman quarterback, Bryce Underwood, beat you through the air against Wisconsin. Check out these numbers. I mean, this was his best game of the season. 19 of 28 for 170 yards. That was a season high. He had 1 touchdown, no interceptions. And I get it. I know USC's cornerbacks, they've struggled. They've made everybody kind of look good. Michigan's wide receivers, they got some talent, but they're not going to be the best wide receiver unit in the Big Ten by any stretch of the imagination. It starts with USC, then Ohio State, maybe Oregon. After that, you guys can argue about who's got the next best group of wide receivers. I'm sure Indiana wants to raise their hand. But Michigan's wide receivers aren't going to, kind of shiver down anybody's spine. And they shouldn't intimidate USC secondary, period. So, again, they got a handful of guys that can make plays. I talked about the freshman quarterback, Bryce Underwood. If you follow recruiting, you probably know the name Andrew Marsh. USC was after him, 5-star wide receiver out of Texas. He chose Michigan. He had a good game. He probably had his best game as a collegiate against Wisconsin last week. I think he had 4 catches for 80 yards. They also have a 6'5" wide receiver who can do good things. His last name McCulley. And then they also have another one. I guess their speedster name slips my mind at the moment, but they got three wide receivers. They're not a deep team, and they're not a team that throws the ball a lot. So again, make them throw the ball, and you do that by stopping the run game. Make Bryce Underwood throw the ball. And I get it. It's much easier said than done. I get that. They are going to lean into their running back. His name is Justice Haynes. He's good. He ranks number 3 in the country with 130 yards per game on the ground. Almost 131. So that's number 3 in the country. Just, for what it's worth, Waymon Jordan, he's 7th in the country. 107 yards per game. Justice Haynes, he already has 2 75-yard touchdown runs this year. Okay. Sometimes it's based on the defense that once he gets through that hole, if you're trying to stop the run, you got 7-8 guys in the box. Obviously, there's no deep help. And if he was able to make a cut and a move, he's got enough speed that he's going to outrun the defense because they're in the box. Nevertheless, he's a strong runner. So he can run between the tackles, and if there's daylight, he will take advantage of it. He's got really good football speed. One of USC's challenges has always been, it doesn't matter if it's Lincoln Riley, Pete Carroll, whomever the head coach was, mobile quarterbacks. Bryce Underwood is one of those. So Eric Gentry, you got a job. You're spying. He is your responsibility all game long. Everything else, 7 guys in the box. Stop the run. Make Bryce Underwood have to throw the ball. Because while he is, an elite talent, he's still learning how to play quarterback. One of the things I noticed in that game against Wisconsin, he has one pitch. It's a fastball. No touch yet. And when he's under pressure and he's got to throw on the run, he's not that accurate. And I think I'm being fair when I say that. It's not a knock. He's a freshman. But unless he improves touch on the ball, throwing on the run, I need to see USC's defensive line creating pressure. They need to be able to do it with just 4 guys. You got to, again, focus on stopping the run. Make Bryce Underwood beat you through the air. Ron Morris said it. Michigan's head coach. It's about controlling the line of scrimmage. USC has to be able to run the ball. They have to be able to stop the run. Conversely, Michigan wants to do both. That's their game. But USC has an explosive offense. That's where they should have the advantage because we know they can run the ball, but we know they also have a really good passing game. So they have to be the team to make Michigan adjust. USC, they know what their job is. Stop the run. Make Michigan beat you through the air. All right, we've got one more segment to go. We've talked about the trenches, both sides of the ball. I'm going to talk a little bit about the polls because they're not very good. In fact, they kind of suck. College football is back, and I could not be more excited than I am. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like it. You know that. But let's be real. Sometimes getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the actual game itself. With the endless queues you got to jump in, the hidden fees, the price jumping at checkout, all that makes buying tickets, it's like buying a car. You just dread doing it. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football game for as low as $25. You already know this game against Michigan sold out. If you need a ticket, check out Game Time. The app made it super simple. I can even see the exact view from my seat before buying. It's another great feature from Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms will apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDON COLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. This episode is also brought to you by Square, your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home. Whether, it's that local sports bar you always hang out, that coffee shop you walk in, they'll say, hey, Mark, I know what you want, sit down, I'll bring it to you. Maybe it's that corner deli. All those places, they've been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. So what does supporting a community actually look like? Well, spending money there doesn't just support the business, it supports the people behind it and the community around it. Here are just a few places that run on Square around the USC community. You like tacos? Check out Tacos LA 26. You need a bagel? Go check out Courage Bagels. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go-lockdowncollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. So the AP and coaches poll came out on Sunday. Didn't want to talk about it because the only reason I'm bringing it up now is because people always say, you know what? Preseason polls don't mean anything. Well, I beg to differ. And I've had this discussion before. If you don't start inside the preseason top 25, you have a really hard time justifying staying in the top 25, even with a loss. I mean, the preseason number 1 and preseason number 2 team, they're not even in the AP poll anymore. That was Texas and Penn State. Let me run through the AP top 25. Ohio State, Miami, Oregon, Ole Miss, Texas A&M at number 5, Oklahoma at 6, Indiana 7, Alabama 8, Texas Tech at number 9, Georgia's at 10, LSU at 11, Tennessee 12, Georgia Tech 13, Missouri 14. Here comes Michigan at number 15. USC's next opponent, Notre Dame, is at 16. Illinois, who USC lost to by 2 points, 17. 18 is BYU. Virginia, number 19. They're getting a lot of mileage out of that win over Florida State, who absolutely sucks. 20, Vanderbilt. 21, Arizona State. 22, Iowa State. 23, Memphis. 24, South Florida. Number 25, Florida State. So Florida State beats Alabama. They've now lost 2 in a row. They lost to Virginia, at Virginia, and they just got their butts whooped by Miami. So where's USC? They're not in the top 25. They're in the others receiving votes category, behind Cincinnati, behind Texas, behind Penn State. Remember, those were your preseason number 1, preseason number 2 teams. You then got Utah, Nebraska, who USC will play later in the year. Then comes USC. So that's 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. USC is considered the 31st best team in the country right now. They were the top 25 team when they went into Illinois. They lose to Illinois, they drop out of the polls. Illinois bounces back, they go on the road, they beat Purdue, they jump up to number 17. Makes sense, right? Sure it does. USC doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. Virginia's getting the benefit of the doubt. Excuse me. Florida State's getting the benefit of the doubt. Why? These polls, I'm not even going to go over the coaches poll because it's kind of a mirror of the AP, a little bit of adjustment here and there. But we know that the coaches or whoever represents the coaches, they don't watch these games. That's the one poll that you really need to get rid of. And I'm not sure what's going on with the AP poll this year, but it's been off a lot. I mean, excuse me, to keep Florida State at 25, Notre Dame's all the way back up to 16, even though they have 2 losses. Why? Because the 2 losses came to Miami and Texas A&M. Well, again, why doesn't USC get that benefit of the doubt? If Illinois is considered a top 20 team, shouldn't be losing on the road by 2 with some stuff out of your control, like food poisoning, allegedly. Taking, running rampant through your locker room, allegedly. Again, starting in the polls in the preseason do matter, because if these AP voters are human, guess who else is human? The playoff committee. They're going to reference these polls. And USC, yes, if they beat Michigan and they beat Notre Dame, they should definitely be a top 15 team, if not higher. We'll see. But I'm getting a little fed up with it. Getting a little fed up with it. That's all. I mean, it's just somebody. In fact, let me tell you how bad it is. I told you I wasn't going to give you the coaches poll. Somebody gave Texas A&M a first place vote. Why? Why? Again, there's just so much bias built into these things. Can't stand them. This isn't really a rant. This is just me pointing out how crappy the polls are. And it does matter, because when you start outside the polls, you have to fight that much harder to get in it. And then you have to fight that much harder to stay in it. Meanwhile, they keep rewarding teams that have already have 2 losses, because the people who made those votes can't admit they were wrong. I can admit that's the end of this episode of Locked on USC. I will be back for another one tomorrow, because that's what we do 5 times a week. You'll also get my post-game reaction after Michigan. You might even get 7 shows this week. We'll see. We'll see. Definitely going to get 6. That's for sure. Something else. Don't forget about this, college football fans. Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. You have Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12. He leads the conversation alongside 2-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson. You also have former college star Jesse Holley and a bunch of the Locked On local experts. College football preview is only Locked On can do. You can catch that every Thursday throughout the season, and you can only get that on Fire TV. I will be back with another episode of Locked On USC tomorrow on YouTube, as well as any platform you want to download your audio platform to, your audio podcast to. Pick a platform, do it. It's always free. Until the next episode, everyone, you know what to do.